Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 25 of the Whitey and Wills Sports Show. It is Sunday, March 6th, and as soon as I start recording, my dogs start barking in the background. That is perfect timing. But we're doing this because we have a very special guest on here this week. The coach of the Class 1A third place team in girls basketball this year, Neoga's Kim Romack. Kim, thanks so much for coming on with us today.
Thank you guys for inviting me on. This is exciting. I've watched a little bit of you guys and I'm ready to go.
Kim, everything you've done this week, now this is like dessert. I mean, this is the cherry on the sundae being on this show.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Kim has had a big week, to say the least. She's had a super sectional win on Monday night. State tournament on Thursday, a third place finish, a welcome home parade and ceremony today at the Neoga High School gym, which I was at and was a really, really great time. And now, the letdown is to spend a half hour talking to us. But Kim, again, appreciate you. In about half an hour or so, we're going to have Matt Robinson call in. He's going to talk to us about the Teutopolis boys team heading to a super sectional. He and Greg were at the sectional championship in Flora Friday night, so that's going to be on as well. But first we're going to talk to Kim. And listen, I could go on for hours about this, but just as a Neoga person, it's such a big deal, I think. And you talked about this in your speech about what a big deal it is for the community of Neoga for this to happen, because they've had girls basketball in Neoga for 45 years. And of course, a boys basketball program a lot longer than that. And this is the first time that anybody's been to state. So you can't understate what a big deal it is, not just for the school, but for all the people in town.
Yeah, I mean, this has been amazing for our community. I feel like it really has kind of rallied us together and brought everybody together to cheer for something really good. Obviously with the last couple of years, we've had to deal with all kinds of different stuff going on. And this was something that finally everybody just got to relax a little bit, to see the smiles on the kids' faces, whether it was the players or our student section that was at the games. Seeing people from the town that we, haven't necessarily seen out and about for a long time. Just seeing those faces in the stands has been absolutely amazing, especially the last 2 weeks, but really even all season.
I think one thing I noticed, I've been lucky enough through the radio and newspaper stuff over the years and through the great basketball that played in our area, to go to Bloomington a lot of times and see a lot of games at Redbird, state tournament games. And one thing, I looked across the gym at a certain point and saw you and Seth James standing there and your kids. And the thing that jumped out at me was that you looked like you belonged. You looked like you were ready. You looked comfortable. And I know that's not easy, but really, that's more of a statement than a question, I guess. But I just wanted to get that out there, that you guys and the way your kids played reflected that.
Yeah, it was going up there. Of course, it was a huge accomplishment to get there. And the kids were so excited. The practices that we have leading up to heading to Bloomington, you would walk in and they were chatty and they were smiling. They just had smiles on their faces the whole time. And when we got up there, we went up on Wednesday night and kind of got to hang out together for a few hours. And then we got to Redbird Arena fairly early on Thursday morning. Sorry about the cough.
That's all right. That's all right.
But we got up there fairly early on Thursday morning and got the girls in there. We couldn't get on the floor, of course, or anything, but just to get them out there to see everything. That way, we knew that it wasn't going to be a surprise when they ran out onto the floor. And they took everything in. And, you're always worried playing in a place that big, whether your kids will adjust. And they came out and they looked like they belonged out there on the floor from the get-go. We told them to soak it all in, to look at the stands, enjoy it, but be there ready to go. And they from the beginning of that first game, they were.
Now, Kim, one of the things you see at a lot of state tournaments, and you generally see it with folks who've not been on that stage before. Big arena, different shooting background. A lot of times teams and coaches get overwhelmed with the moment, okay? And I'm listening to you guys, and you know, I read a little bit, you know, Brimfield, I know they haven't been there in a while, but they used to be like a team that had been there a couple times.
Yeah.
So it was just a case where, wow, you know, listen to the start of the game, you guys came out and were like, you know, it was like you were playing in the small gym at Neoga. No big deal. Here we go. And that impressed me a lot. I just happened to have lunch with my dad on Thursday, and it was during your halftime, and he's like, wow, Neoga came out and was ready to go. You know, they didn't get that deer in the headlights. And what were you, you know, and relying on Seth a little bit, how were you guys preparing not only your team for that moment? I know you said, you know, you went out and saw the gym, but you guys as well.
Yeah. You know, it was surreal. Kind of, you walk out there and you take the first couple of minutes to just look around and take it all in. But the girls really helped us really get through it. You know, when we walked out, they were of course very excited and looking around. It was one of the best decisions we made to go out there early, because we also got to see our fans come in. And I think that put them at ease a little bit, seeing all those people walk into the stadium before we ever went down to the locker room. And they knew where everybody was, and I think it was a comfort thing for them. And then when we walked out there to warm up, or when we ran out there to warm up, the girls kind of looked around, but then they went out on the floor and it was business as usual. And it kind of helped us to go, okay, like they're ready for it, and we are too. And every once in a while, you kind of had to turn around and go, we're really here. We made it to this stage. It's every coach's dream. And I was very proud of the way that they presented themselves, because I think they really kept us grounded as well.
You know, this has been a long time coming for you as a head coach. I mean, not only making a state tournament, of course, but since you've been a head coach, and this is not an indictment on the job you've done or the kids you've had, but it just hadn't even worked out in 10 years to play in a sectional. So it's got to just be, every step just has to be like the whirlwind gets a little bit faster.
Yeah. You know, that was one of our biggest things that Seth and I have both talked about for a long time. We felt like we've had some really good teams. Seth had some fantastic teams back in the early 2000s when he was coaching. And of course, then it was a 2-class system, and it was just hard. We would run into T-Town a lot of times in the regional. We could just never get past that regional hump. And we've played in three or four, I'm not sure exactly, 3 or 4 regional championships up to this point in the 10 years that we've been together. And, you know, we felt pretty good coming into a couple of those and thinking that we were, you know, this was going to be the year that we were going to be able to do it. And the cards just never fell our way. And I wanted so bad for us together with our team to be able to get that regional win. And we got it. And it just, that moment right there, I'll never forget. But then it was next day, okay, now we got to plan for sectional. And we're looking at the teams that we're playing and going, okay, we can play with all these guys. And it just we kind of kept winning. And every moment, every game was just unbelievable feelings, unbelievable emotions every time we stepped out on the floor. So going from just wanting to get that regional to playing in the state tournament was absolutely amazing.
And I muted myself for a second there because these dogs, I'm telling you, they're going insane.
I'll trade you your dogs for my cat. On my lap.
I don't know, I don't know what I want to touch on, but I mean, the state tournament obviously huge, and you guys played so great in the third place game, especially. Do you think it was a new format this year with the third place game happening on the same day as the semifinals? Do you think that that actually turned into a pretty good situation for you to just turn around and play another game instead of having to sleep on a semifinal loss?
I do. And that was something that we talked to the girls about too. Playing 2 games in one day like that and playing, on a pretty big stage, and it wasn't a big deal for us because it's something that we do every year at Monticello. We play that early game. Like this year, we came in and played at 10 o'clock in Monticello. Well, that's a good little drive for us from Neoga to Monticello. So you're on the bus for a little bit, leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning, getting up there, playing, not really having a whole lot to do during the course of the day. So you go into town, you eat, and come back. And we played at 7:30, I think, that night at the Monticello tournament. And we've always told the girls after losses, the biggest blessing we can have is being able to play another game right away. Whether it's the next day in tournaments or whatever the case might be. I don't think that hurt us at all. It was, as soon as the game was over, we all gathered up, and it was really exciting for the kids because after that first game was over, they took the 5 starters and myself down into the press conference. Well, they thought they were on cloud 9 because they were like, this is like college. This is real. This was a real press conference. And so they're so resilient and they get over it. Like Coach James said today in our welcome home, they get over it a lot faster than we as coaches do. And so for us to be able to go back to the hotel, hang out for a little bit, get some lunch, they rested, hung out with one another. We had a team meeting before we went back to the arena, and they were ready to go. They knew that they wanted to bring home a win this week. And, after watching that first game, we thought we could definitely compete with Serena, and those girls were ready to go in game 2 that night.
Boy, what a blessing it was for you too, to not only win that third place game, but to win it in the fashion you did. And it gave you a chance for some really awesome moments at the end of the game, to be able to get your 2 seniors out of the game at the same time, to be able, well, I mean, you could take us through it all, but you were able to strategically put your subs in the game late and really make it something for everybody to remember.
Yeah, that was, we felt like playing in that first game as well as we played in the first quarter. And then part of the second quarter, I looked at one point and I'm like, we belong here. This is, we didn't get here by a fluke. We belong here. We can compete with these teams. And then, we struggled a little bit with Brimfield later on in the game, obviously. But we still felt like we gave them a pretty good game and we played about as well as we could, minus some turnovers to get to that point. But then knowing that we had to come out and play that second game against Serena, who obviously had a great record coming into that game. But we had watched them and we felt like we could compete, and we came out and we knew that the kids, that's what I love about this group, is that we'll give them a game plan and we don't talk a whole lot about game plan. We just say, okay, this is what we want you to do in this game. And they just go out and do it. We don't dwell on making the kids watch a ton of game tape or anything like that. We gave them their game plan and their assignments and what they were to do. And they came out in that second game and just, they played the way that they're fully capable of playing. And they shut down the Baker girl, who's an all-stater. And, we got ourselves in that position to get everybody in both games. Obviously the first game we were down and knew that we needed to get everybody in and on the floor. But in that second game, being able to get all of our subs in, and then get some of those kids out, especially the seniors and some of our starters out, and get that recognition from the crowd is always big, so they were all honored. And then it's fantastic for those younger kids to get out on the floor and get a taste of what it feels like to compete in a game like that. And they got real minutes. It wasn't coming in for 10 seconds at the end of the game.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one of the things that'll always stick out in my mind from the end of that third place game is to see Avery and Trista come out and to get their hug with each other, which we see pictures after every game of those two, but then to link up with you on the sideline, that's just, that's the kind of thing that they will remember for the rest of their lives,
Yeah. those two are so close as well. So it helps, we only had 2 seniors, but their leadership has been fantastic this year. But they're such good friends and they're such good kids. We have our team 1 to 17 this year. They're easy to cheer for, they're easy to root for, and they all get along. They may not be the best of friends, all of them may not be the best of friends off the court or hang out all the time, but they all get together and get along, between the lines. But those two are the best of friends. And so to watch them share these moments over the course of the season was just phenomenal. And yeah, the pictures that we get to see of the hugs and everything from those two after all these big wins, and those two leading it a lot of times, coming up with some big shots, Trista does, and Avery, just her leadership the entire time. Watching them get to share those moments has been priceless.
Now, Kim, I think it was after the 3rd place game, didn't your whole team go in and sit in the press conference as an audience?
Yeah. After that 3rd place game, Matt Trohoff from IHSA, he said, we were trying to get the girls directed because you got to take all the pictures and you get the medals and all that. And then everything's very processed there. And he goes, do you just want to take the whole team down to the press conference? And of course the girls were all about it. Yeah. And so we head down there, and it was, later in the evening. So a lot of our local newspapers and stuff like that had already gone for the day. And so we were sitting in there, and there was maybe 1 or 2 reporters in there that asked a couple questions, but the rest of the team got to sit in the press conference, and then they started asking questions, and they got the biggest kick out of that. It was so fun to have all of them in there together.
Well, I know when I was AD, Lori's group got 3rd, and I want to go down and see this press conference. And it was when Claire Busher was a freshman and had just dominated the 3rd place game. And it was really cool, because here she is up there, she's answering questions just like it's her cousins asking her questions. It was really neat. So that was a neat experience. And I saw the picture kind of from the back of the room. Someone took a picture with your kid, all your kids sitting in the press, in the seats of the press during the press conference. That's pretty cool. Now, did you guys end up staying Thursday night, or did you come back after the game?
We went ahead and stayed Thursday night. Okay. Our administration through all of this has been phenomenal. We have Bill Fritcher as our superintendent right now. At T-Town for so long.
You got a good principal.
Yeah, he's been through all of it, so he kind of understood. And he told us when we were planning, and with the new format, it was kind of hard as into, okay, if you win on day 1, what are you going to do? So if you win on day 1, you come home, you go to school the next day, you get to go back up Friday night. The planning behind all that part was crazy. But he said, if you don't happen to win, if you play 2 games on Thursday, I think it would be a really good idea for you guys just to stay up there. You're going to need that evening to be together and decompress. And I think that was the best decision because those girls got to spend that one last night together. Everybody kind of hung out, but they were pretty tired too by the end of the night. I didn't have to worry about them out running around or anything because by 11 o'clock, most of them were in bed. Yeah. But yeah, we got to stay up there together, which was nice. And that was been the big thing for us really since the regional is just after every game, let's ride the bus together. Let's be together. Let's enjoy all these moments together. And that was that final kind of last moment that we really got to spend other than today together as a team.
Sectional final and super sectional. Now, listen, I know you're a coach. It's got to stay positive as far as what comes out of your mouth, right? But there have to be points in both of those games where you're thinking, I don't know if this is in the cards or not. I mean, that's especially the super sectional, but even against St. Anthony in the sectional final, I know you had a plan and you were kind of nursing your kids along through foul trouble, but down 8 points after 3, you got to be at least preparing yourself mentally for what happens if this goes the other way.
Yeah, I told the girls too, after that 3rd place game was over, I'm like, all season long, in a lot of years, you kind of think about, when this does end, what are your key points? What are your memories? What are your things that you want to make sure you express to your kids? And this was one of those years where I never, even going into that regional, I never really thought about what that last conversation in the locker room was going to be like with them. But you get yourself in those situations in some of those games, And all of a sudden you think, oh, is this where we're going to fold? Is this where it's going to, end for us? But they just kept fighting back. They never gave up. So yeah, you're kind of thinking that along the way at times. And then we get down 14 against Warville. And you're like, well, okay, the biggest thing right now is let's make sure we continue to play hard. Don't totally fold here. Let's make this a game, make them earn it. And then all of a sudden you look up and I'm thinking, okay, we're only 4 down now. This has become a different ball game. And that's the great part about these kids is they don't ever really, that it doesn't affect them. They know the score and they know the time, but their attitudes never change. And they don't get down on themselves. And we see sometimes when teams do, and we always try to take advantage of that. When you see a team kind of imploding or getting mad at one another, those are your opportunities that you want to take it at them. This group never did. They were always calm and cool and never felt like they were down by as many as they were.
I think possibly the time for me being there, I think when I realized that this thing's not over yet was probably Avery had scored the 5 points. Avery Fearday had scored the 5 straight points. But I think when she just flipped that one up on the baseline, she just kind of threw it up and it went in. You're like, this team things are breaking their way right now. And I imagine that across on the other side of the gym, they're thinking the same thing, like, boy, what do we have to do to get a stop right now?
And yeah, Kim, I want to tell you, I can imagine how crazy it was on the bench during a comeback like that. But for us poor folk who were sitting at home listening on the radio, it was a chore because it was like the announcer during the game was getting a little excited. And he did a very good job. I sent him a text and said I didn't know Gus Johnson covered Neoga girls, but he never replied. So I didn't know if he laughed at that text or was mad, but he did do a good job. But it was like, I mean, the hair started standing up on my neck just listening to see how high Peter Brady's voice was going to keep getting. And, it was good. It was fun. I can imagine for you guys.
It was, and we talk about all the time. You just got to have a few things fall your way. And, Avery was able to get on a little roll there. And like you said, the one that she kind of flipped up and it just went in. We talk about the basketball gods all the time. And sometimes we feel
Yes.
like they're against us. And that night, it felt like they were with us. And she was able to knock a couple down there and the momentum, and you could hear the change in the crowd. All of a sudden they were thinking, okay, we're getting back in this. And the gym started getting a little bit louder. Obviously started getting a little bit harder for me to communicate out on the floor with them, which is perfect. That's how we want it to be. And then they had a couple key turnovers and that things just fell exactly how we needed them to, for us to be able to advance. And that was what it was going to take in that game coming down. It wasn't just, yes, it was our kids, battling back and taking every opportunity. We had a couple things just fall our way. And maybe that's credit to, we've said all along, maybe that's credit to a couple that we've got up in heaven right now watching us, and in the one and only Mary Sir and our super fan Bucky Carpenter. And maybe they were on our side that night.
Well, and speaking of things falling your way, and before we stop talking about Goreville, we can't talk about that game without talking about the 3-pointer, the Trista Moore 3-pointer. Under 30 seconds to go, to turn a 2-point deficit into a 1-point lead. And I mean, it takes ice water in the veins to make that shot. It really does.
It does. She's hit a couple big shots like that this year, either when we've been down or the game has been close, that have really changed the momentum and the outcome of that game. And I remember you're watching one of your posts about that shot, and that you'll never forget it. And I remember in that, when she was taking that shot, we had run a play and we had set it up specifically, and the pass wasn't there. The option that we were going for wasn't there, but that's why when we don't set up any none of our set plays have just one option, because that you don't want that. And so we always talk about what are your second, third, fourth, and fifth options coming out of something. And when we kick that ball back out to Trista, she's a kid who, she can hit that clutch shot, because I don't think, a lot of kids that would get in their head and they're like, I don't want to be the one that takes the shot. And she's not our leading scorer, and she's not necessarily always the one that we're running a play to, but she is ready to shoot when needed. And we kicked it out. And I remember going, okay, she's taken this. And the first thing I looked at was, where are her feet? And I saw that those feet were behind the 3-point line. And I went, we're going up one here. Instead of tying it up, like, we're going ahead. And yep, you could tell coming out of her hand that thing was going in. And that really changed the volume in that gym and the momentum.
So Kim, I'll tell you one thing. I saw the video, and probably the most impressive thing, she relocated on the perimeter. When the ball went inside, her defender turned to look, and I always taught my guards, relocate, because they don't know, they're going to think you're still in point A. She relocated textbook and kicked it out, and it wasn't like she caught it and had to think.
No,
Bang, there it goes. I mean, she showed just court awareness and confidence, and end result was what you wanted.
Yeah, just the poise from her. I mean, there was no question. She knew exactly what she needed to do. She knew what her team needed her to do. And then the best part about it is, this is one of the things that Coach Snow, our boys coach, brought up. He goes, as soon as that shot went in, he said, your team wasn't celebrating, or she wasn't celebrating. They were back down into defense.
They were getting back. And then again, that's the sign of a well-coached team, Kim, that your kids knew what to do in the moment.
Yeah. That, they're an easy group to coach, and they're an easy group to like. And that's part of it. They knew that wasn't going to win the game for them. They knew that was just putting them ahead, and that there were still some time left on the clock, that they had to make sure that they executed on the other end of the floor. And again, due to, timely for us, turnover by them gave us the opportunity to get the ball back again.
So a couple more things here. Big picture things that I wanted to make sure we talked to you about. I mean, I haven't given you a chance to talk about all your kids, obviously, but you've got a good group coming back too. I mean, it's never, you don't want to put like too lofty expectations on any group, but obviously the NTC is going to be solid. The area is going to be solid. You're all going to land in a tough regional next year. It's almost a certainty.
Yeah.
But you've got a lot of good kids back next year, so there's no reason why it shouldn't be another fun season for the fans to pay attention to.
Absolutely. We're very, very fortunate with how many kids we have coming back. Yeah, we hate losing our two seniors. You hate it every year, just because of all the work and the effort that they put in for you. So you hate losing those kids, but looking forward to next year, knowing that we have a solid group coming back, some younger kids who really stepped up at the end of our season and played some really key and big minutes for us. We've got those kids coming back, and they're excited. Even our young kids that weren't dressing varsity this year, they're excited because the last 2 weeks have been a lot of fun. And so looking forward to them. But you're absolutely right in the fact that it's not going to be easy next year. A lot of our area teams were young this year, so they're bringing, everybody else is bringing a lot of kids back too, with more experience, another year of experience, and it'll be tough in the conference. And you're right, depending on, sometimes we get sent north and sometimes we get sent south in that regional, kind of right there on the line, but going either direction won't be an easy task. But I'm excited. I'm excited to start, take a couple weeks off here, but excited to start thinking about the summer and what we can do to prepare for next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's always easier to look toward next year when you're going to have your all-stater back who averaged, like 16 points game, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and really, it's weird to talk all this time and not talk about Sydney Richards, but the way I look at it, she's gonna have a whole nother year of getting talked about. She is a special player, and hit some big shots in the Goreville game. Was very impressive at the state level. She wasn't touched by the situation at all, but her and her sister, I think it's going to be a good combination next year.
Yeah, they'll be a fun duo. I'm looking forward to having both of them back, as well as, our other kids, all those juniors with a little bit more experience. And then Haley Campbell's started all the year for us, and she's just a sophomore. So bright future ahead for her as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're leading two scorers, a point guard coming back in Sydney Hackman. I mean, there are worse ways to have to reload than that. So that's awesome. And I don't want to let you go without giving you a chance to talk about Seth and to talk about the coaches that came before, because that was a focal point of your speech at the welcome home today. And I know that those people mean an awful lot to you. And so here's your chance to say it one more time.
They really do. I was telling everybody today, we heard from a lot of our former players, both that Seth had and that I have coached. And I've talked a lot the last couple of weeks about the fact that, these wins and this success doesn't happen overnight. It's not just from this one team. It's from the people who laid the groundwork in the program. So from former players who've had great teams who just haven't necessarily gotten to the level that we were able to play at this year, not because they weren't good enough, but just because the cards didn't fall right for them. And then you're right, with the coaching staff that we've had over the years. Terry Biggs started our program for us and, really pushed for everything to be fair and equal and for the girls to get the same opportunities. And she built this program through, obviously some tough times with, not winning a lot of games in certain seasons, but she stuck with it, and she was with us for 20 years. And then, we had Seth taken over for 6 years. Mr. Harmon, Kevin Harmon was in there. Darletta Wagner was in there. And those people have all poured in so much effort and work as well. And we wouldn't be where we are today. This program wouldn't be where we are today without all those former players and all those former coaches putting in the time and the effort that they did to get these girls the opportunity that they were able to have this year.
It's got to be extra special for you, I think, being the school that you attended, the school that you, in the town that you've lived in, that you grew up in, that you played for, with a coach that you played for. I mean, there's just a lot of really good storylines underneath it all that add up to almost just a perfect story.
Yeah, it's my home school. It's the only place I've ever taught, and it's the only place that I've ever coached. And hopefully that's the way that it'll always be. Being able to coach alongside Seth James has been absolutely tremendous. We wouldn't be where we are. I wouldn't be any part of the coach that I am today without him. He is always there. The basketball mind that he has and the time and the effort that he puts in is tremendous to our program and to these girls. It's such an honor. I loved playing for him when I was in high school. He became the head coach my senior year. I absolutely loved playing for him, but it's been the ride of coaching next to him has been tremendous. We always tell our girls we're the same. He doesn't get treated any different. I don't get treated any different. I'm not more important than he is. We're one and the same. And, our girls know that, and they know that they can go to him at any point, or they know that they can come to me at any point. But it's just, he's a friend, he's a mentor, and he's the glue that keeps us together.
Well, Kim, I appreciate you taking the time with us. I know you got an Illini game to watch. It's getting ready to start here in a couple minutes, but yeah, it's been a whirlwind week for you, and probably the last thing you needed to do was take a half hour to talk to us, but we are very appreciative of it and glad to have the chance to talk to you.
perfect way to end my weekend right here with you two. And then watch the Illini game and off to bed after that.
Yeah, well, get some rest. Congratulations again on a great season. Again, I could talk to you about this whole year for a lot longer than this, but it's been fun. I'm glad you got to have a small part in it, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you.
Hey, Kim, I do have one question.
Yes.
Now, I've heard that you and Dustin used to work together at IGA and Neoga. Is that true?
Yes, we did.
Now,
and I got all kinds of stories if you want them.
Is he like a busy store would get busy, and then Dustin's like putting boxes in the baler and never around?
Yeah.
Is he that kind of kid?
Well, it was like, carry outs were called. Where's Whitey at? He's in the milk cooler. That's right. He was the dairy guy. He was in the milk cooler.
Well, it's not a total lie, but if I was in the dairy cooler, it's because I was busy, because milk is important. Okay, folks, like that is people don't
whatever.
People come to the store to get their milk. You can't
we must have sold a lot of milk too.
Yeah, I've worked in the grocery store, Whitey. I know the tricks.
Yeah, no, we had a lot of fun there. Kim, she was with me the first time I ever went and got books at Eastern too. She and another coworker who was an Eastern student, they took me up there and showed me around. So she's a few years ahead of me in school, so we didn't really get to know each other until a little bit later. But a lot of good times at the IGA, and glad all these years later to get a chance to do this grown-up stuff.
Yes,
get a chance to talk. It's been a blast. I got to interview you on the radio, got to interview Seth in normal. Those are bucket list types of things for me as far as a broadcaster, so that was great. Couldn't be more appreciative of you guys for giving us the opportunity.
No, we appreciate you guys covering us. It was great. And I was so excited that Seth got his opportunity to be on the radio this week with you guys as well and get interviewed. That probably meant more to me than anything. But yeah, it's been great to have those conversations. I've dreamed about those opportunities, and especially on the big stage, and to be able to have you and Greg up there with us. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, Kim, we'll let you. We'll give you a chance to bail out on us, but again, thanks so much, and we'll catch you down the road.
All right, thank you guys. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Whitey.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim Romack, the Neoga varsity girls basketball coach in her 10th season, getting a team to the state tournament. It was quite a move for the Neoga girls to head from a program that has been good, and has had a lot of success in terms of wins and losses over the year, but just never quite able to get over that sectional hump. Location. Yeah, and making the most of those opportunities. You can get to the big game, but your kids have to make the most of those moments. You as a coach have to make the most of those moments, and then you have to get a few breaks too. And it all worked out. So, it was a very rare pleasure for me to get to have some small role in that, and to get to watch people that I know and respect a lot as people get that opportunity. So, Mike, we're going to have Matt Robinson. He's calling in about 2 minutes, so we got a few minutes to kill. But he's going to be talking to us about the topless sectional final down in Flora, and we'll do our attaboys at the end of the show.
Well, let's just start with the St. Anthony sectional. You were there.
Mm-hmm.
You and Greg were doing that game, the St. Anthony Tuscola game.
Yeah. So St. Anthony, I don't know how to sugarcoat this. St. Anthony had a big lead, late in that game. I believe was it a 9-point lead? I believe they had
8 or 9 points. I think mid-4th is what I was getting text during our game.
Listen, Tuscola is good. Okay. The Quinn kid, an excellent player. And when it came down to crunch time, he took it over the way a player of that caliber sometimes needs to do, right? But I think that's one I think that's one that St. Anthony is going to feel much more like, not so much they got beat, but like one that got away from them a little bit. Just a lot of turnovers in the fourth quarter. And it just sort of snowballed on them toward the end. And
Yeah, I think somebody said they had like 9 in the quarter, maybe 7 in the last 4 minutes.
it was a bunch. It was tough. You listen, as a broadcaster of high school games, you don't want to get into negative stuff too much, right? You want to give the other team, you want to give the winning team as much credit as possible, and not be harping on the mistakes that one team is making. But that was one of those games where you couldn't help but talk about the turnovers, because they were just such a big part of how it came down. It was it was just unfortunate.
Sounded like it just kept compounding and compounding. And then stay at that site Friday night for their final. Incredible ending. Made number 2 on Sports Center's top 10. They were the young man from Meridian. I think it was the same kid. And again, shame on me for not doing my research on this, but I guess maybe hit a 3 at the end of regulation or the end of the first overtime or near the end. But then 2.6 seconds, had the ball to go the length of the floor, tie game at the end of the second overtime. And Dustin, I'm going to tell you, I was shocked that there wasn't someone at least on the inbounder.
Yeah.
And then they were able to catch it, take 2 dribbles, and really take pretty much a shot without any defense.
Yeah.
I mean, the defense was there, but the defense was 4 feet away. I mean, I know you don't want to foul, but and the kid buried it. And I've seen video from about 10 angles, and he makes it every time, but it's just chaos. And the thing is, I had a game sectional final or 2.7 seconds. We had to go the length of the floor. We were down 2, and it was a case where we got a nice shot. But that, it's kind of funny. One of my assistants texted me. We used to call the Maryland room. We ended every practice. Every kid had a ball. We lined up at half court. Every kid took a half court shot. Because I remember when Maryland hit 2 game winners during a season. I think Gary Williams was the coach, and he talked about they ended every practice. I heard him say that in a clinic. So my kids, every practice, we're taking that shot, every kid. And so it's not a shock. It's something you've done. And this kid, it's just a long jump shot. I mean, it's not like he's throwing it like a football. But that was huge. Incredible way to end the game. Meridian goes down now tomorrow night playing the Super. But that was quite an ending.
Yeah. Matt Robinson has joined us. Matt, can you hear us?
I can. How are you guys tonight?
Not too bad. We were just talking about the end of the St. Anthony Sectional Championship. You're laughing. Nobody from Tuscola is laughing, unfortunately. Can you imagine?
Not at all.
Can you imagine having your season end on a play like that, with the feelings that would be stuck in your head for God knows how long?
No, honestly, I can't. I can't imagine that. And honestly, I didn't realize that it took a 3-point shot that was kind of a difficult one even to get it into that overtime. So Meridian really was almost defeated, and then kind of everyone was expecting to go to a third overtime and then hit the 3-quarter court shot to end it. It was incredible.
And Matt, I know you've seen the video as well. I was talking to another retired coach today, Coach Mimoser, and he was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, hey, if I have enough balls and I'm the only person in the gym, I'm going to hit that probably 1 out of 20.
Well, I mean,
it was easy. It was
yeah,
made
it was easy, but if I'm Tuscola, I mean, I don't want to put myself in any sort of position to where I could possibly get bumped into a foul when they have to shoot that short a shot. I mean,
I'm going to at least make your inbounder not be able to make a chest pass.
Yeah, that's really the only thing I would have maybe done different is put somebody on the ball and just tell them stay back, don't cross the line, nothing crazy like that.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a couple of things you could have done differently, but I'm going to make sure that I don't get a kid in a position to where they even can run into me and get a foul called,
Right. No, I agree with that part, but yeah. And then, so let's go to the first game down at Flora. Matt and I did that. That was Teutopolis and Alton Marquette. And that was kind of a tale of two halves, wouldn't you say, Matt?
Yeah, it really was. Alton Marquette had control of the pace and tempo, which they really needed in order to win that ball game. And, I mean, they shot 6 of 10 from the floor in the first half. And they led 22-18. No, that was 16-12.
16-12, and they were 3 of 5 on both 2s and 3s, so they didn't discriminate. And it was, I was feeling uneasy at the half.
Sure.
Because of
Go ahead.
No, anybody there from T-Town would have been uneasy. They had control of it. They were taking their time. They weren't turning the ball over a whole lot. And they were really looking for shots that they wanted. And then on the defensive end, they were playing good defense. T-Town missed some looks that, could have went in, but sometimes when you're playing defense for so long, you finally have the ball, you feel like, oh, we've got it now. We got to do something with it. And it just adds a little pressure to you. But
right.
T-Town did a good job of weathering the storm there.
And that first half, Marquette they sandwiched Caleb Seamer wherever he went.
Sure.
And we talked about a little bit, but that first possession of the third quarter, Chet came out and ran a little set. And I talked to him about it. He said he tried to run it earlier. But they kind of put Brendan Nieberge down in the corner, weak side, so his man was clear almost under the basket, double teaming Caleb Seamer. And then they skipped it over to him, and Brendan hit a 3 to start the third quarter. And the thing I told Chet, I said, it got your kids excited. They're in the game, they're trying to get going, but all of a sudden, option 1 buries a 3, you're within 1. And your kids got excited and into the game, and your bench was going nuts, and your crowd got into the game, and all those factors were factors down from that point forward.
Yeah, it really was. And the whole thing about it was, too, you're down 16-12, and you're down after you almost feel like you were dominated for the first half, where you're only down 4 points. Right. You come out with a good, solid set play, a good plan against it, and it worked. And now all of a sudden you're down 1. I mean, it's just a 1-point game. And so, that was the thing. You just had the feeling in that game once Teutopolis kind of figured it out a little bit, and if they were ever able to get the lead from them, which obviously they did, then Marquette had to come out of their patient offense and had to try to score, especially late. And that just wasn't going to work for him against the Shoes. Their coach knew it. Good coach, understood what he had and what his team's strengths were. And T-Town was able to play that kind of game. And then in the first half and hang around. And then in the second half, when they got the pace more to their liking, they were able to take advantage.
Yeah. And it took a little while. I mean, Marquette throughout the third quarter, I can't remember the kid's name now, but hadn't even taken a shot in the first half. And he buried back-to-back 3s and hit a 2. and you felt like, oh my God, okay, T-Town's made a run. They've got where they want to be. Now Marquette's kind of counterpunched, but then T-Town just wouldn't budge from that point on. They just dug in, played good ball, and solid defense. And then again, once they kind of got that lead near the end of the quarter, had a big stop in the quarter, and then got a bucket to start the fourth quarter.
Yeah, if memory serves, T-Town didn't get the lead until the fourth quarter.
Right.
But once they established it, then they were able to force Marquette out of their patient offense. But no, I mean, it was good defense by both teams all along. And, I didn't know a lot about Alton Marquette coming into that game. I mean, freely admit that. And I was impressed with what they tried to do with the weapons that they had. And they utilized it to the best of their ability, but T-Town was able to withstand that. And that's a mark of a good team too.
Yeah. I think it was maybe tied, and T-Town got that stop. Marquette didn't even get a shot off their last possession. T-Town really did a good job. And then T-Town came out to start the quarter and got a bucket to start the quarter. And it was from that point on, they just methodically built on it and got it up and got the crowd into the game. And, the 6-man was beneficial down the stretch for them. So big win, which set the stage for it seems like a annual rematch with Mount Carmel.
They hit some big free throws coming down the stretch, but even when they missed their free throws, Mitch Altoff grabbed 2 or 3 offensive rebounds off of missed free throws that really gave the Shoes the extra opportunities that they needed down that stretch.
Yeah, he and Mitch Altoff, he guarded extremely well, got some putbacks, got his hands on a lot of balls, did a lot of good things.
Mm-hmm.
And then that game against Mount Carmel, almost anticlimactic as it turns out, turned into, it looked like from the final score, looked like it was fairly one-sided. I will freely admit I didn't hear much of it, but seemed like the Shoes came out and played pretty well.
Well, they did, but it was a 22-18 ball game at halftime.
Okay.
Mount Carmel came out, and the first thing you noticed is their lineup was literally 6 foot to 6'2". They didn't have anybody big, and even the kids, they brought a kid off the bench that had some size, but for the most part, when you looked at it on the defensive end, it was almost like every kid was interchangeable. And that's, to me, how they played the defense. And T-Town was, and again, Seamer had a size advantage, but they were collapsing on him pretty good, and they were switching off screens. They were switching in rotations and doing an excellent job of it with some quickness with their players and athleticism. And so it's 22-18 at half. And even though T-Town was winning, I was in a mindset of this really doesn't look good for T-Town, because they were 2 of 10 from 2-point range. They were 0 of 2 at the free throw line, so they weren't getting free throw opportunities. And the reason they had the lead, they were 6 of 10 from 3-point range. This is all off of my memory, so I might be off a little bit.
No, I think you're right on.
And so I'm thinking, well, they're not going to continue to shoot 60% from 3-point range, So they're going to have to get some of these drives or some sort of opportunities inside. And they made me look foolish in the second half. Because they came out.
Went 6 of 7, missed their last 3 of the game.
Right. They were in the second half. T-Town was 14 of 17 from the field, at least what I had them as. The one of the 2-pointers that they missed, they got their own rebound and put it in. They were 8 of 10 from 2-point range and 6 of 7 from 3-point range. And you're right, Mike. One of the threes that they missed, they were 6 of 6 until they missed their last 3 that they took. And they might have missed the last 2 that they took also. but they just continued to make shots, and it really started. I mean, the defense was obviously good all game long. T-Town's defense played a good, solid game. They picked up some fouls, especially in comparison to Mount Carmel, but Caleb Seamer had to sit for a while because of a little bit of foul trouble, and that was due to the quickness and penetration that Mount Carmel had. Mount Carmel did miss some shots that maybe they normally make, but that's part of it. T-Town obviously had a big rebounding advantage, but again, when there's only 2 defensive rebounds in the second half available for Mount Carmel, it's hard to fault Mount Carmel too much.
Hey, Matt, are you driving through a tunnel?
I don't think so.
Oh, there you go.
Is it better now?
Yeah, you were fading quite a bit there. I was a little concerned.
Well, I don't know what happened there. Joys of phones.
I watched the game. I mean, obviously I was listening to you and Greg on the radio, but I watched it today. One of the parents happens to stream it on Facebook, and I went back after the fact and watched it. And, it was T-Town would get up 8, 10. And I just remember it was 56-30 at one point. They got up to a 26-point lead. But it was like 40 to 28. And then they got, Mount Carmel got a bucket to cut it to 10 and I kept thinking they're done scoring. They're going on a 16-0 run now. And it was just, a 3-pointer by, Brendan, and then Max hit a 3-pointer, and then Dylan Prummer hit a 3-pointer. And it was just, and they were white, they would work the ball and get good looks. It wasn't like they were just throwing them up there, but they were making them.
That was the difference from the first half to the second half. Even though T-Town was making their threes in the first half, a couple of them came off again. Mitch Altoff getting steals, pushing the ball, and then they were kicking it to the open shooter on the perimeter, kind of in scramble plays. And then there was one kick out from underneath the basket that I remember Dylan Prummer found Brendan Niebrigi in the corner in the first half, and he hit a 3. But the second half, it started, we talk about all the made shots. Well, it really started with James Niebrigi. He was able to find a way to get into the lane and finish. He went 3 for 3 from the field to start the third quarter. And then he's the one that actually missed a shot inside that Seamer rebounded and put back up and in that half as well. But what they were doing then is the defense had to even collapse harder in the middle. And as soon as they did that, this kick out shot to the corners especially was open. The Prummer hit from the corner. Brendan Niebrigi hit a couple from the corner. And anytime those passes come from inside out to the 3-point shooters, it just increases the percentage so much. And T-Town was able to finally take advantage of some penetration against that Mount Carmel defense and get those buckets to fall. It was amazing to watch. That's for sure.
And I don't know if it was the end of the start of the third quarter or the start of the fourth quarter, but James ended up stealing the inbounds pass and getting a layup kind of on a little lob into the back court. He kind of deflected it and was able to gather it in and get an easy bucket either to start the third or fourth quarter. And you could just kind of tell at that point things were starting to really roll T-Town's way.
I think that was the start of the fourth quarter. I remember the play, too. And I know what you're talking about for sure. I think that was the start of the fourth. And again, obviously T-Town played good defense all game long, and they were just trying to get the ball impounded, and Niebrigi did a great job, which when you're talking about T-Town, you can say Niebrigi did a great job and almost cover half the team.
So what do you go to Carbondale tomorrow night? What's on tap for T-Town? Either one of you guys know much about what's next?
Nashville, I think, kind of got off to a slow start to start the season, but it was because their football ran so deep. I think a couple of games early, a couple of their losses early. Wayne Harry's not the coach anymore. In my opinion, that's a good thing for an opponent. He was so good at what he did. You know, you got a new coach, I believe it's Pat Weathers. And, but, you know, they've, you know, continued doing what they do. They, it seems like every Nashville team, they're going to value every possession. They're going to guard you. I mean, they're happy playing games. You know, you see a lot of those, you know, 40 to 34 games, and, you know, they're not going to run up and down the floor with you. But, you know, it'll be interesting. I mean, the big thing is Chet's group, T-Town's going to play defense. That's going to keep them in the game. It just depends. I've never seen a topless team shoot it well at Carbondale. I mean, I've been on the bench twice. I've been down there at least one other time. That big arena, you know, I've watched kids who are pretty good shooters just struggle. And especially
I mean, that could be, that's definitely a factor when you're out a different environment like that. And, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, this is a completely different group of kids. Obviously with no postseason last year, they didn't have the opportunity to get there, but none of these players have played there before. Right. So maybe that'll work. I mean, it could work to their advantage in a sense, and it could work to a disadvantage. We'll just have to see. But as far as Nashville, I haven't dived in to my research too much on them, but I have seen a lot of scoring affairs thus far. And, you know, I agree they've got a new coach, probably a few new wrinkles, that sort of thing. But at the same time, he would be smart to kind of stay with what those kids have known over the years. And I'm sure to a degree that's what they're doing.
Well, and he was on the bench with Wayne. So, I mean, it's right. You know, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. And Patrick will do a good job. I mean, I don't doubt that at all. Like I said, it's just, right. It's going to, you know, his first run, being an assistant, being a head coach, two different worlds. But it should be a good one. I'm going to listen to you tomorrow night. Instead of making the trip down, got a couple things going on during the day. It was going to kind of push me. So I'm going to listen to you tomorrow night. So have a good game. And I hope I get to hear you go to Champaign this weekend.
Yeah, going to Champaign would be something that's really neat and special again, especially since it's the first time that it's back in Champaign. But you know, and I know there's an element of these kids got to be looking forward to, like, hey, if we can win this one, we'll be going to Champaign. But, you know, I'm sure Coach Reeder and those kids also will understand that you got to win this one first. Let's focus here. We'll worry about Thursday if we need to.
Yeah, and you can never assume. I sat through 4 in a row, and you keep thinking, oh, well, the do factor. Well,
sure.
Do factor didn't work. And it's just one of those things. It's a tough game. You know, you're traveling, it's a bigger floor, and your kids just, you got to make it as normal as possible and play. And, you know, the Nashville kids haven't been on this floor either. You know, there was, you know, no postseason 2 years ago, no postseason beyond a mock regional last year. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Matt, one last thing. Are you and Greg gonna take turns driving so that you guys can get a little sleep in the car on the way home from Carbondale? Because you both got that you got that early morning wake up call to do the morning show tomorrow, and then I assume you're both going to be on Tuesday morning. It sounds like that'd be a little bit of a challenge.
Well, you understand as well as I do that it's a special occasion if Greg does not drive.
Hey, I helped drive home from Peoria state tournament baseball one time. He was getting worn out. I said, Greg, pull over, I'll finish. So he reluctantly.
It might be a situation. It might be a situation where we just start the morning show when we get back to Effingham.
Just may sleep at the studio. I think Flexter's got a couch upstairs.
Well, when
Flexter always has a place to relax. I can promise you that.
I can tell you when we were up at Redbird Arena Thursday, he was definitely catching some cat naps while we were watching the Pana Quincy Notre Dame game. He was making sure, but I don't envy him at all, having the early morning wake up call and having to make that drive. But I didn't envy it enough. I didn't feel bad enough that I ever volunteered to drive either. So we'll put that out there. So
it really, Tuesday won't be the problem. It'll to me, it's the day after, or it's Wednesday where you'll be like, wow, I was tired.
Well, especially
or maybe Tuesday night. We'll see.
Especially if the shoes win. I mean, I would imagine pretty excited. It'll be a cool thing and lots to look forward to. But hey,
sure.
You know what? I hope it happens. We obviously, I think we all do at this point. Team gets far enough along the postseason trail. We don't have to be impartial anymore. We can root. And
well, Dustin, I said last week, I kind of thought there was a chance we were going to have a doubleheader at Carbondale, and I for 3.5 quarters, I think I was right, but unfortunately, they played 4 quarters.
Yeah. That was a tough
one.
One.
Always want to see the area teams do well. And, this is the area team we got going that can definitely represent us well. So hopefully they can make it there.
Well, Matt, I don't know, unless you got anything else you want to chip in about this, I think we're safe to let you go, but we appreciate you taking the time to call in. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys about it, and we'll see what happens with the Topless here in postseason, and we'll be soon talking about some spring sports probably as well.
Yeah. You probably got Mason on the grill tonight, don't you? Fixing supper for you?
He's chefed it up a little bit. We'll have to see what he came up with. Something about some smoked sausage.
Oh, well, that's better than Tombstone. I give him credit. That's pretty good.
Yep.
All right, Matt, thanks a lot.
Well, you guys have a good night. I appreciate it.
Well, hey, anytime you want, you bring a lot to the table. So we're appreciative of you taking the time. So
my pleasure.
All right, Matt Robinson.
Thanks, Matt.
The one of the broadcasters who was at the game Friday night for the sectional championship for Totopolis. He and Greg were down there. People that you hear all the time getting in on the good stuff. So
we may, Dustin, I know you and I have talked about it. I mean, kind of using Matt as a dial-in correspondent, even when we start doing a little, when we get into the baseball, softball part of the season, he may be like our Larry Bud Melman, have him on occasion.
I think so. I think that, well, especially, not all of us have kids that are playing on a local baseball team who's
a very good player.
Yeah, who can really give us that insight. So, yeah, Matt's an asset to sports fans of the area and to us.
Dustin, did you get? I saw where the NTC came out with their all conference team. I didn't see a list. I just saw a congratulation of the MVP. So
I think what we should do, I want to save that for next week because mostly because I haven't had a good chance to look at it.
Okay.
So I'm a little flat-footed on this. I know who.
Well, that's fine. And I should have said something before, 7:03.
But one thing we can comment on, because I know these off the top of my head, but the National Trail girls were very well represented on the Associated Press All-State teams, which came out earlier this week. I mean, I can't imagine that the NTC's ever had this kind of representation before.
And they also had decent representation on the IBCA. So maybe that's another thing next week we'll kind of pull together and.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think we save all that. We talk about it on our next show because we're going to have the T-Town boys to talk about. But I think, we can hit on all that stuff next week, and we can keep this one under an hour and 40 minutes because we do tend to go on a little bit. Yeah, so we can have a show here. Yeah, I was not going to say it, but
I rarely, people are amazed at how little I talk on this.
yeah, you're the textbook definition of succinct for sure. But yeah, we could like wrap this one up at like an hour, 10 hour and 15 minutes. The only thing we have left to do is our attaboy of the week. And I had this pegged, and then kind of as we were discussing it right before we went on, I decided that maybe we should have attaboys of the week. I think I want to recognize two people. And especially since we had Neoga girls coach Kim Romack on for the first part of this show, fitting to recognize these players this week. And really, one of them especially provided a moment that Neoga basketball fans are never going to forget. I mean, I think that this group of girls, they're going to go to their 10-year reunion, and they're still going to be talking about it, because it was just one of those things that will stick in your mind forever. And of course, I'm talking about the 3-pointer that Trista Moore hit to put Neoga in the lead in that super-sectional game down at Wayne City, which, by the way, I was really skeptical of Wayne City being a host for a super-sectional. And great gym, great venue.
The videos I saw, I was kind of impressed. It looked like it was even a bigger.
Yeah,
kind of had some partitions, and
it was not as big as, like, say, Effingham High School's gym.
Sure.
But for a 1A super sectional, it turned out to be perfect. Neoga filled up their side and a little bit of the other side. Neoga had better representation at that game, and I don't think that was meaningless, by the way. So really, if I could hand out a Joe's Pizza or a Pizza Man gift card to every person from Neoga that showed up to that game and made it an amazing atmosphere, I would do that. I don't think that.
I'm sure you can reach out to Joey and Greg and you can go buy some.
I don't think our sponsors would
donate
necessarily want us to give all those away, but they would okay us giving one to Trista Moore. And to me, with this team, you can't recognize Trista Moore and leave out Avery Faraday. They are the two seniors on this team, and Trista I think she got the signature moment. She did. You can't those things just happen. They fall how they do, and Trista happened to get the signature moment. But if you've watched this team all season, and I have, I've seen a lot of their games this year, either in person or online. But Avery Faraday is an important player on the team. She doesn't always score the most points, but when she's on, she's a great passer. She scored 15 points, by the way, in the semifinal game against Brimfield. And
I heard her on the radio. She went on a little run herself. They're trying to keep them in the ball game.
And Coach and Seth James, in his interview after the game, referred to that as her senior moment. You come up with a big game at some point when you have to take the team on your back because you're a senior leader. And that game was hers. It came in a loss, but I'll tell you, it came in. I think that what she brought to that game really helped Neoga prove that they belonged in that game, because Brimfield was good. Okay, Brimfield was as good a team.
They championed good.
Yeah, they were the eventual champion. They didn't necessarily look like a champion for a good part of the 1A championship game, but they got it done at the end. But yeah, Avery was a big part of Neoga proving that they belonged in that game and not getting it handed to them. And I know that she'd probably rather that it was the moment that Trista got, but she was still a key part to the girls looking like they, being competitive and making sure Brimfield knew that they had played a game that day. And really just all season long, those two girls, you see all the pictures. Trista's mom posts a lot of pictures online of the games, and throughout this postseason, the best one is always Trista and Avery sharing a hug after the big win is over with. And you can see the pure joy on their faces and the fact that they wouldn't rather be sharing that with anybody else, I think. And so to me, I can't recognize one without the other. And I think that from what I have gathered from other parents and from the coaching staff, the way this team goes about its business and the great way that they play together and the great people that they are off the courts is all a reflection of their two senior leaders. And so with that, this one is going to go out to the two seniors on that Neoga club, Trista Moore and Avery Fairday. Good delivery on that one, right, Mike?
Well, it's always when you're announcing them, they always work out. So when are you going to be in town so I can get you some gift cards to deliver to these young ladies?
Well, I don't know. We'll figure that one out. I
Right.
can get up that way. I can get down that way about whenever I need to. So we'll settle that, but we'll get them taken care of. And I'm sure, Trista was like, I think she was WCIA's athlete of the week, something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I'm sure she'll forget about that as soon as she gets that gift card in her hand. She's going to be like, what is WCIA? I forget. I don't even know what they do. Because
but she'll remember the Whiting Wills.
Yeah, I tell you,
they may call when you show up to give those awards. They may call security just because they're a little concerned on just the delivery.
Well, yeah, it would be alarming, I guess, to see a shady character like myself walking up toward a school. I'll have to call.
And in case you're taping the Illinois-Iowa game,
I'm not.
Okay, they're down 11 now, just in the first half. Just
Illinois is. Well, they were. I took a peek at it for a moment while Kim was talking, or while Matt was talking, and noticed that it was early, but Illinois was leading. But
I'm watching them miss a lot of shots. Kofi just got one blocked. I think it's like, well, Nebraska did their job. We just got to show up. They're struggling right now. They really are.
A lot of game left, and I think I'll go.
Oh, there is. There is.
But yeah, I think we'll call it a week again. We got a nice little bump last week. A few extra subscribers. We're
up to 70 or over 75.
Inching our way up to that 100 mark. The officials that we had on last week, great guests, and apparently people really wanted to hear what they had to say, so that was good. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do it. Go on our YouTube channel. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube account, and you can subscribe for free, and doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us get a little more exposure. But we'll be sharing it on Facebook.
So we had a shout out on Facebook. Jamie Ludwig discovered our podcast and gave us a shout. And I told her, hey, we may have to get your kids on this spring, talk a little golf, and we can Zoom with them. I know Luke just got done playing in Arizona for a tournament. I think Macy's heading out to Arizona here shortly to play in a tournament. So
we'll be looking for ideas.
People we can talk to.
We'll be looking for ideas. Basketball season has given us endless material to talk about, but we're down to one team in the area left. And good luck to T-Town, by the way. I'm pulling for you. I think it'd be really cool in the first year that they get that state tournament back at the Assembly Hall, which is what I will always call it, no matter who the corporate sponsor is.
Right. I agree with you 100%. Little foreshadowing, Whitey, back in our initial show, a wise man said, a lot of teams from this area make deep runs, and because we have so many quality teams, he says we'll probably have some more. And, already we've covered girls in a state semifinal in the Final Four. We might as well have boys there. And I'd like to see T-Town kind of break the Carbondale jinx.
Well, we'll see about it. That's tomorrow night. And folks, if you catch this before that Monday night Super-Sectional, if you catch this show before that, make sure you listen to it. Premier Broadcasting will have it on the air, and Matt and Greg will do a great job. So, Mike, I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Thanks to Kim Romack and Matt Robinson for joining us, and we will get back at you next week. Take it easy, Mike.
See you, Whitey.